I'm really curious, like, when the Republicans managed to take office, are these types of tactics acceptable? Like, if you manage to have Republican sympathetic individuals in most institutions, is it okay if you use those institutions in order to persecute the political candidate of the opposition? Because what seems to be happening in Russia is similar, isn't it? Like, if you have someone that's running against Vladimir Putin, immediately you'll see that the institutions, the mainstream media, everyone is going against not just that person, but his campaign, his staff. I mean, look what happened with Prigozhin. You know, I have these conversations with Short Fat Otaku on the Archcast. And one of the things that I'm trying to say is like, look, you can have a nation, like a Western nation, that becomes systemically corrupt. Like the institutions, instead of doing what they are supposed to do, they are following the personal ambitions of the people that lead those institutions. And Short Fat Otaku just doesn't believe that happens. He wants to see the evidence. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at Russia, right? You have like Prigozhin, he's in an airplane, and all of a sudden, the airplane goes down. Now, the Russian government official story is that there was a grenade in the airplane, and maybe he was on drugs. Okay, that is the official statement. So I guess like Short Fat Otaku has to believe that. Because there's no other evidence, right? Like there's no one else that's contradicting this statement. Even though like it's obvious what happened, even though it's like duh. But like, you know, the official sources, they claim, they state. But for some reason, like, he can apply this logic to Russia, but he can't apply this logic to America. And I do think that one of the big issues that America is facing is that they do not have history of this. Like, here in Eastern Europe, we know that a country can become systemically corrupt. Americans believe in systemic racism. They believe in systemic sexism. Like, they believe in all sorts of systemic systems. But they do not believe that a country can become systemically corrupt. Like, they do not believe that it is possible that, yes, like, most institutions can actually follow an agenda rather than do what the institution was initially supposed to do. And they also don't understand that just because that happens doesn't mean that every now and then you can see an arrest being made or, you know, a ruling that doesn't fit the narrative. I mean, the perfect example would be the fact that it happens in Russia as well. You know, like every now and then someone associated with Putin gets arrested. You know, every now and then someone that is corrupt and is part of the establishment does get arrested. But like when you look at the overall theme, you notice that, well, the institutions aren't functioning the same way they should function. Like in the case of Short Fat Otaku, like when we're talking about the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. If you guys remember during the last election, that scandal was removed from social media. And when we got to see the Twitter files, it seems that it was removed due to the FBI asking. Now, Short Fat Otaku doesn't believe that this is a problem. I mean, you know, the government can ask. Right? Like, it's easy to say no to the government, and his opinion is like, well, Twitter did say no in the past, so therefore this is not pressuring, this is just normal democracy, where the government can just ask a social media giant to suppress a story. I mean, this is normal, you know, it's a healthy democratic society, I assume. But, another claim is that, well, the FBI knew that the story is true, they did it anyway, right? So, now Short Fat is like, well, where's the evidence that they knew? And it's like, well, here's a whistleblower. And it's like, well, it's just one guy. I want to see more. You know, and it's like this constant demanding of standards of proof. It's like, we're not arresting anyone, right? But we're forming an opinion about an event. Like, it's the same thing with Prigozhin. Like, maybe there was a grenade in the airplane. Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. And there's no way for me to know. Like, I have to rely on third-party sources. But, like, I'm using my cognitive functions, and I'm, of course, like, you're not going to have, like, enough evidence that puts it beyond a shadow of a doubt. However, I can deduce that, okay, well, Prigozhin was a threat to Vladimir Putin, like, he started the coup, all of a sudden, after a couple of months, this accident, quote-unquote, happens, like, of course, you know, it's an assassination. I mean, I'm convinced, personally. And I don't have the ability to arrest anyone. But, like, personally, I have made my mind on the issue. And it's the same with the United States right now. I do not think that what's happening is acceptable. Like this is a banana republic, as many people like to say it, but this is the Eastern European mindset. When someone becomes inconveniencing, you use all the tactics available in order to make sure that he doesn't win the election. So in the case of Donald Trump, they tried having like all these lawsuits against him and all these trials. And it seems that it just raised him in popularity. So now they're trying a new tactic. They're trying to block him from being written on the primary ballot for the GOP. So despite the fact that people want to vote for him, the people will not be allowed to vote for him because this is how they protect their democracy, right? Now, the way they're justifying this is that there is an article in the US Constitution which was passed after the Civil War in order to prevent the people who rebelled against the federal government from being able to run for office. Right? So, like, it happens when you lose a civil war. I mean, what can you do? But from what I know, Donald Trump wasn't actually convicted of this. Like, he wasn't convicted in trial for treason. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like, the mainstream media did convict him. Yes, like CNN and the Young Turks, but that's opinion pieces, isn't it? Like, I'm trying to understand, because I'm looking at the country which is supposed to bathe the rest of the world in democracy and freedom and liberty and individual rights, and I'm a little bit confused. I think, well, what was the trial where he was declared to be guilty of treason? Because if he actually did run an insurrection, like, what? So you had an insurrection with no one being tried for treason? Who were the generals that were leading? Where was the military? What happened? Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that the first case that decided that Trump shouldn't be on the ballot was Colorado. Now, when I looked at the previous elections, they didn't vote for Trump. So he didn't win anything from Colorado, which means that it was more like virtue signaling, really. But the GOP from Colorado said that if this happens, they're going to become an independent caucus, and there is not going to be a primary, so Trump's name is going to be on the ballot regardless. Right. Again, this doesn't really matter because Colorado, as we mentioned, very unlikely that people are going to vote for Trump anyway. But when you look at Maine, this does get a little bit more interesting because, first of all, it sets a precedent that there's actually more of these decisions that are coming up. And he did manage to get one electorate from Maine. So, yeah, like, it does affect him. I don't know if Maine is going to do the same decision as Colorado to just say, well, if you're going to do this, like, the GOP is now a caucus and we're going to nominate him, so there is no name on the ballot. But it does influence his campaign financings, right? Like, many people who donate money to politicians, and they donate money for campaigning, they do take into account that what are the chances of this person winning? And when you see that there are now, like, legal repercussions where it's, like, preventing the person from running by trying to strike his name off the ballot, well, a lot of money may be put on hold. I don't think, like, people are not going to give him the money, but I do think, like, they're going to wait a little bit to see what's happening, and this may slow down his campaign. The Supreme Court is going to initially have to rule on this. I mean, it was quite possible that they would have ruled when Colorado did it, but now that Maine joins in, it's almost certain that the Supreme Court is going to have a ruling. The only problem is that this has to go through the chain of the judicial system, so it's going to have to file an appeal, and by the time it goes to the Supreme Court, it may be months. And as the election season is approaching, well, you can see how concerning this is. But I do notice that even leftists on Twitter are becoming concerned by these issues. Like, this is not normal. Democracy shouldn't be done with censorship, right? Where you have terms of service on various media platforms that forbid you to talk about things that the Democrats used to talk 4 years earlier. I mean, Hillary Clinton and the hashtag #NotMyPresident was very popular when Trump was in office, right? So you have censorship, which doesn't allow you to talk about these things. You have a Canadian that frustrates me because he wants to talk about these things, but he is on the side of the censor, right? So like he can say literally every shit that he wants. I can't. And of course, it's also the fact that you get to see like this is the will of the people. You do not put the cart in front of the horse. The reality is that the people who vote for Trump, they do not like the democratic policies, right? So they need to be represented. Now, I am led to believe that if it wasn't Trump, if it was someone else, like literally anyone, if it was me, right? If I was to replace Donald Trump, and I had literally the exact same economic policies, literally the exact same social policies, like literally everything, it's just that, you know, I don't have, like, I guess his character flaws and the January 6th event, like, all of those are put aside. But I didn't have like an identical double to Trump. The Democrats would embrace me and they would be like, well, you know, we're glad that we finally get some good competition. We're going to meet you on the stage of debate. And we're going to have like a interesting conversation about the economy and inflation. And is this what I'm led to believe? Is this it? I think that we may be mistaken a little bit. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.